Good evening, our RadiateUp family. Welcome to our Thursday Live. We have missed you for 2 weeks. Our group took a vacation and now feeling refreshed. We hope that everyone is doing well in this nice summer heat and staying hydrated and staying cool. And tonight we have a very special guest. What an honor to have our dear friend, Nicholas Giannissi, here with us to enlighten us. His soul is so loving and so beautiful. And we always love having Nicholas back with us. And he's going to share with us how to overcome fear and also our words, actions, can possibly contribute to the light or the dark. As Nick was saying, we have been waiting for this time. So without further ado, my dear friend Nicholas, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I always start by saying I appreciate what you guys are doing. You're making a big difference in the world, and it's always a pleasure to be on with you guys. So thank you.
Honor. You are an amazing soul. I love how you do short videos to informed humanity because there's so many information out there that people could get lost. And what I love about you is that you digest it, you break it down to simple form that people can understand. And I always love watching the videos because it always gives me the aha moment of like, wow, this is a great way to explain to people who, if not on a spiritual journey or is on the verge of looking for. And I'm so, so grateful for your contribution to humanity in that aspect. So let's jump in and dive into this, what is going on in the current situations. And there's so much fear going on. Share with us your wisdom.
Well, any and I shares the wisdom of the great teachers, my great teachers. So I always pass that on. But I think I get misunderstood a lot, because you know in the in some spiritual circles and communities, you can get labeled negative for sharing some of the things that go on in the world. Um, but if you watch my videos or read any blogs or anything I've ever posted in the past, it's I've always said we shouldn't be seeing good and bad. We should just be looking at different levels of suffering. Okay, it's not, from a Buddhist perspective, it's to get off the battlefield of good versus evil. And this is why one thing I wanted to touch on today is the importance of a vow. Okay, now I don't suggest people make vows if you're not ready to make a vow, but I would suggest people read some of the Buddha's vows, some of the Bodhisattva vows, some of the Tibetan Buddhist um, wisdom, because I'm not like a Christian. I'm not saying that Jesus is the only way and everything else is the devil and Satan and all the rest of it. But it's true. In my research, the dark occultists that run the planet, actually their religion, just as there's Buddhism, Taoism, Christianity, their religion is Satanism. I mean, this is not, it's very apparent now. You can find evidence of this everywhere. And that's okay. Everyone's got their own path. But if you actually break down that religion, you'll see that the whole of society is structured in a way that we build neural pathways from birth that are based on us identifying with a self, a separate self, and we have to be better than everybody else. Now, this might seem like a massive shock to a lot of people, okay? But that is actually a satanic mindset, okay? So this idea of competing in school, competing in sports, trying to get the best job or trying to cheat, trying to do anything you need to do to get ahead. Forget what the rest of the world's going through as long as me and my family are safe. You know what I mean? That mentality from their perspective is a win-win for them, because then you have people who don't treat the world, they don't treat the rest of humanity as their family. Okay, so when you read some, I've been reading a lot of books recently on some Tibetan Rinpoches. A Rinpoche is basically a master that has been found. It's the reincarnation of a past master. So one Rinpoche, he will give his fellow monks and lamas advice on where he's going to be born again, and then they will find him. Okay, that's considered a Rinpoche. So what's fascinating about their outlook on life is from birth, they are taught to see this life as this body is the soul's vehicle to save. That's it. So, and save in a way. Now, I'll share a little bit of wisdom here, is because they have practices. I've actually just reached out to Master Shah. I've just sent Master Shah an email to ask him advice on this topic. He hasn't got back to me, but I'll let you know if he does get back to me. A lot of the Rinpoches say that we should be doing practices. This is a daily practice for a Rinpoche, let's say. They imagine, and there's many different techniques, but basically they breathe in all of the suffering of all beings, right? And if you have an enemy, right, if you have somebody that is wanting to kill you and your family, right, you need to focus more attention on them. And you need to breathe in their suffering and breathe out to them all of your merit and good fortune. Okay. Now, my Buddhist teacher, I asked my Buddhist teacher about this about 3 years ago. I said, should I be doing this practice? Okay. And she said, and she's a Buddhist, but she said, I would suggest no. Right. And she said, because this is a practice for a high level master. She said, if somebody tries to do this who can't even take care of their own karma, okay, it could be detrimental. Now, one insight I've got from my teacher, Master Shah's method, which is my own insight, but I did ask Master Shah, is this something we should be doing? Because this is advised by Rinpoches, even for any spiritual practitioner. And it makes sense. And the reason why they outlook, I'll just say this first before I go on. The reason why they take this approach is because they say, if you meditate and reflect on the fact that since beginningless time, our countless reincarnations, our countless lives, if you could get all of the skeletons of our past lives, it would be bigger than Mount Everest. So in all those past lives, they say that everybody we come in contact with, even if we see them on the TV, has been our mother or father countless times and would have given their life to us. Okay, even if it's not in human form. You know, my dog's just had puppies. She's had me in tears at how selfless she is for their pups. You know what I'm saying? So if we can look at everybody that comes into our awareness, whether it's one of these, you know, people who's pushing a dark agenda, if we see them as being our mother and giving their life for us at some point, the Tibetan philosophy is, if we don't look after them, if we don't care for them, who will? Okay. So
Nick, can I stop you on that?
Yes.
I know that it's so profound when you say that, to recognize that even the puppies, even the souls that we are enemy with, were somehow in our past life were connected to us, and to have more love for them. And the powerful saying that you just mentioned about breathing in all the suffering. Can you imagine the amount of love one has to have to really absorb all of that? Because humanity can't even love each other? How can we? So I'm sorry. I was just like, that's so profound.
It's a good point, because humanity suffers because we're all up here. We're trained to be up here. See, a Rinpoche is trained to live from the heart. So my insight that I got from the question that I asked Master Shah, my teacher, was, let's say we're not ready yet, because you shouldn't do that practice if you're not wholeheartedly ready yet. But let's say you're not ready to do that practice. You can still turn on all of your spiritual transmissions, which is basically an essence from a high spiritual realm that's been transmitted to our soul and our body. If you have the right teacher, fortunately enough, we have. You can basically dedicate half an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours a day if you want to chanting for all beings. Okay, it's the same goal, but you're not going to that next step where you're breathing in their suffering. You are just using same thing. You're using this location in the cosmos and this body as a tool to save all sentient beings. So that's taken me a while too, and I'm still not there, but we have to, I think one of the reasons, like your question about fear, the reason we're afraid is we're identified with the body and we're afraid of death. And we're afraid of death because we don't understand death. See, in again, Tibetan Buddhism, death is one of the most important parts of life. I've said to people before, I've said, get a picture of yourself as a baby. And if you look at it and you think, oh, I was so cute then, and this might sound harsh to people, but I always say that child is dead. And it is dead. That you as that child is no longer here, it's dead. The person, my body that started this interview is dead. It's constantly in flux, it's constantly changing. But the beauty of it is can you see in that picture of a baby the essence, the life essence that's still alive? You get me? So if you understand that the spiritual aspect, like I had a conversation with my son the other day on a similar topic, and I said, I had a pair of like pajama pants on, like loose pants on. I said, look, if I kick my legs, and I kicked my legs like that, I said, is there life in these pants? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, now if I took them off and I threw them on the floor, is there life in them? And he said, no, because your legs are not in them. I said, well, there you go. I said, so if you look at my body, it's moving. If my soul left, what would my body do? And he'd say, the same as the pants. You get me? So if we can understand that the life that's in the body, that's never changing, it's only the body that's subject to time and space, we can truly understand that death, we need death to experience
To
life.
grow.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine the other day who's quite skeptical about all this, and we got talking about death, and he said, the thought of staying in heaven forever freaks me out. And I said, well, when I was a kid, when I was like 10, I remember speaking to my mom, and I said, Mom, if when we die I stay in heaven forever, it scared the life out of me when I was a kid. I was thinking, the concept of being in heaven forever, I was like, well, what happens? And it's a good teaching for impermanence, because without impermanence, our kids would never grow. You know what I mean? We'd never see them become adults. We'd never grow. There'd literally be no growth. So if we can understand the wisdom in that, we can lose our fear of death, and we can understand that it doesn't make sense to neglect all beings and focus on one being. It makes perfect sense to focus on all beings' benefit, because from Tibetan Buddhism as well, they say if you give a prayer or chant a mantra, my teacher, Master Shah, calls it universal meditation. If you're meditating for all beings is limitless. Therefore, the blessing is limitless. The prayer, the vastness is limitless. And I don't like saying this because a lot of people might what I'm going to say is, if the virtue is limitless. You get me? What you get back is limitless, but it's only limitless if you are truly selfless. Like if I sit down and say, I'm going to meditate for an hour now for all sentient beings because I know I'm going to get a lot of virtue, that you're not going to get that virtue. Do you know what I'm saying?
You do it with an intention, so that's not what it's supposed to be, right?
Well, it's conditional. There's a condition. I'll do this because I'll get this in return.
Right.
It should be. So I tell you, I don't usually share this, but just because it's in a conversation, I always finish my meditations with, if I've gained any virtue from this practice, I give that virtue to all sentient beings.
Wow, that is selfless.
It's just sorry, go on.
No, this is why I love having conversation with you. It's the simple wisdom that you grasp that is not taught in any school, and it's not taught in, the parents don't have this wisdom as well, which I think that should be like the basic fundamental of any souls, to learn that there is an abundance in the universe for all souls to have and to manifest, instead of having and feeling that we are limited by, everything within our surrounding. The universe has showed us that if we really become open and receive, the universe will bring forth whatever we need in abundance, right? And so if we see someone suffering and then we give them, and I love when you're saying Master Sha, he's like, whatever he have in his wallet, he would just give it all to people. And that is like a soul that truly understand the wisdom of the universe.
It's true, because when we focus on the self, we actually the ego consciousness, I call it separation consciousness, because you are one being that's separated from the whole. Now that's, Master Shah says, follow Tao, flourish, go against Tao, finish. It's because when you go against Tao, which is ego consciousness, you become anti-life. You separate yourself from the whole. But when you become follow the Tao and flourish, the Tao is selfless. The Tao is humble. Why is it humble? Because we don't actually know what the Tao is, yet it gives life to everything. So its nature is humble. So by following the universal laws and principles, which is selfless, like you think about my computer now is serving selflessly as a computer. It's on a table serving selflessly. I'm on a meditation stool, which is serving me selflessly. All phenomena is selfless. So when we align with that, we follow Tao, and it's like swimming with a river. You're flowing with, you have the weight of the river behind you. Now, what's interesting is it's actually the way to true happiness. You actually find true happiness when you have a bigger purpose than yourself, which is the vow. When you're contributing, when you're focusing on yourself, you're focusing on your problems, you become anti-life. So this is why I wanted to touch on the vow first, because sometimes it's easy to get disheartened or not motivated to meditate. You think, oh, I can't be bothered. If you have a vow, let's say the vow is, I vow, like the Bodhisattva vow is, no matter how, although the number of beings is limitless, I vow to save them all. Although the wisdom is endless, I vow to learn it all. The path is endless, I vow to walk it. Okay, so this is to step into the unknown, because this is a vast vow. If you want to use like Master Sha, for example, I vow to help create Wanling Rung He, okay? All souls join together as one. You're committing. That's why we're back here, by the way. Let me tell you now, it's hard times. That's because we've made vows that we'll always be here until there's no more suffering in hell. So that's why we're here. So this is when people
that is living during this time, we're in the grand finale.
Absolutely, we're in a big time. We're in a really important time. It's a great time to be alive. But you've got to remember that Wanling Rung He means all souls join together as one. So you got to remember, if somebody's a dark occultist doing the most horrific things, which we spoke about in the last podcast, we don't need to go into it here. if you truly understood what they've been through, okay, which I'm not saying everyone needs to do that, but it will open your heart to understand their suffering. And if you understood karma fully and you understood what their potential future lives could be like, then it's going to increase your compassion and your vow. Then you can step off the battlefield. Then you can see news come your way and you don't get triggered by it, okay? Because you see somebody do a really cruel act to somebody else, okay? I watch them and it's hard to watch. I'm not saying I'm completely not bothered by it, but I see the need to love those that are creating the harm just as much as those who are being suffering. There's suffering on both sides. So when you have a vow that's bigger than yourself, right? Let's say your vow is to help move in the direction of Wan Ling Rung He. Every time you think, you know what, I just can't be bothered meditating today, it's not about you. You do it for Wan Ling, you do it for all beings. That's your motivator. There's a story in the Zen tradition where one day the disciple said to the master, "What's the point of all this?" And he didn't even get to finish his sentence. He said, the master knew what he was going to say, and the master said, "For all beings." He just cut him off, bang, for all beings. And it's a beautiful teaching. So in today, I actually usually just freestyle whatever you want to ask, but I've made a few little notes today because one thing I wanted to try and just touch on is just a few basic principles of the light path and the dark path, because the dark path is based off deception. Therefore, a lot of humanity is tricked into doing dark practices when they don't think they're doing it.
Yes, please enlighten us, because I believe a lot of us right now is in that situation where it's being deceived and not realize that it's being deceived. So, as many light workers that are out there serving, there's a lot of souls that are in the process of searching and not really quite sure how to go about doing it. And I believe that your way of explaining it simplify things so beautifully. So please enlighten us.
Thank you for that. But so the essence of the light path, according to my teacher, is Shulian. Okay, service Shulian. So if you watch an interview with Master Shah and Master Guo, that's my teacher with his teacher. I don't know if you've ever seen that. He asks Master Guo, what is the essence of Shulian? And he basically says it's a condition where you serve so selflessly that you forget yourself. You forget. And the self here we're referring to as the ego, the false self. And when you reach that state, you reach a state which is called Minshin Genshin, which is enlighten your heart to see your true self. We can't see our true self because our heart is the channel to the heart. This is going off my teacher's teaching. Channel to the heart is too polluted, too many desires and things in the way. So through serving selflessly, now there is great wisdom in that, because when you serve selflessly, even if it is through chanting, let's say you're not necessarily going out and trying to feed the poor, because you have to balance. If you go, my Buddhist teacher always said, if you go and give a lot of material, like you give thousands of dollars or millions of dollars to charity, but you don't gain any wisdom, she said it was an exaggerated analogy, but you could come back as, she said, like an elephant that was full of jewels. You with me? Like, I'm worshipped in that way. Or you could get born in one of these like Rothschild families, for example, and get lost again. You get me? You've got all the material gain you need. So you need to balance it with wisdom. This is why Shakyamuni Buddha, his story is so profound, because his virtue through what he'd given in the past made him born to a king, but his wisdom was strong enough to see that wasn't the way, and he renounced it. He let it all go. So Um, Shulian is to serve so selflessly that we see our true self and we know our natural role in nature. The dark occultist is basically the polar opposite. It is to worship the ego. It's actually to worship the false self. A lot of these celebrities and things, they make a vow. Their vow is to destroy what God made. Now, there's a lot of wisdom in that, because in that shows that they acknowledge a God. They acknowledge that there is an all loving, benevolent, natural, coherent force to life. Okay, and they want to destroy that. So how do they destroy that? Is the ego. The ego is how you destroy what God made, because you see rap artists, you see it's basically creating a world where people are focusing on themselves, and when they're only focused on themselves, they forget about the damage they're doing to the planet, their fellow neighbor, so on and so forth. The dark side are focused on matter. They're materialists. Okay, they want to accumulate stuff. Okay, now you think about it from a weight perspective. If you want to go up, spiritually, it's heavy. Okay, all these cars and everything, they keep us weighed down. So when we die, if we're attached to the material world, we're actually attached to a hell realm. So they're materialists. According to dark occultists, at the top, the dumbest people in the world, according to them, are atheists. I've been an atheist, okay? And I'm telling you, fortunate enough for me, I was an atheist who still asked a lot of questions. And atheism has no foundation. It really doesn't have a foundation. And I'd be happy to speak to any atheist, because it's like another religion. But my point where I'm going is, they believe that if they can convince the world to be atheist, and let's face it, if you look at our history, atheism is a new thing. Every tradition, every part of the world always believed in a spiritual dimension and a God. So atheism is a new thing. And this is where we're going astray now, because we're putting science before God. Right now, everybody's totally neglecting this body that wants to be healthy, right? This body has survived for thousands of years, maybe millions of years, because we've been told so many lies throughout history. And we're thinking that we need a vaccine from science. So from their perspective, they believe, and I don't like saying them and us, because it is creating a division. But when I say they, I'm just talking about the dark occultists. From their perspective, they're basically saying, if you are dumb enough to fall for this, you don't deserve to be here, because they believe in like survival of the fittest. So they're basically, if you believe in the message that they're putting out there, you don't deserve to be alive. So the light path is the opposite. It is having such a connection, such an understanding of the spiritual aspect of life, that you are completely detached from life, from the physical body. You die on the spot. It's okay. You die for somebody else, because it's not the end. And that is somebody who is uncontrollable. If you're fearless, you can't be controlled.
You know, that's really amazing to say that.
I couldn't hear you then. Just say that again. Sorry.
I said that was very intriguing to say that, because that fear is what people are holding on to. And I remember when I was in college, I was saying that I have accomplished everything in life, and heaven can take me anytime. It's like no fear of dying, right? Because once you have understand the reality of what life is and the purpose of why we're here, truly, it's just to help our soul to grow. And once we truly understand that, then it's like, what is the next mission? And that's like you were saying, serving others, helping enlighten others, because we have now gained that knowledge and wisdom. And I'm so grateful for that. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was powerful.
No, it's a great point, and you've obviously had a strong spiritual understanding for such a long time, because that is basically the key. You know, if you have a connection to spirit, there's no fear. There's just no fear. And that's why, you know, another separation between the two, to try and to show you the distinction between the two. The light path, selfless. Its focus is on focusing on all beings. It's humble. It feels united with all life. This is the heart. You see, the heart is a one organ. The mind is a polarity organ, so it sees things as good, bad, so on. It flows with nature, which is what we spoke about before. Therefore, the longevity comes from not resisting nature. Okay, you are supported by, the 10 das from Master Shah. One of them is flourishing, and that's a very key condition, because what that says is, if you are all loving, all forgiving, compassionate, if you are aware of being light, you are a light being, if you're grateful, okay, if you are humble, if you are in harmony, what happens is you naturally flourish because you're in alignment with everything, and therefore you'll experience longevity. The dark occultist is just the complete polar opposite. They believe that they can take life energy from other beings, okay, and then now, because they're aware of karma, right, they believe that one of the main reasons of AI and Neuralink and things like this is they want to upload their consciousness to AI, so that they don't get their karma, because they know that when they die, they're subject to karma. So they're trying to upload their consciousness to artificial intelligence, and they're trying to bring all humanity with them. Now, you think about how much we're influenced by the cloud. You have your Wi-Fi on, right? And there's reports all over the world of people saying, when Obama was president, like a family of 6 people all woke up in the morning and all had the same dream that Obama was a great president, things like this. Through the cloud, they can, because we're just antennas, you see, they can program through the cloud, and then you have the 5G grid and all the rest of it. But if you've got Neuralink and you think you can scan the internet in your mind, well, guess what? You are just far more easier to program. So they try and take life energy, long story short, and they worship the ego. It's literally just a polar opposite of true spiritual practice. So understanding the ego is vital as well. It really is, and it's difficult, because the ego is such an interesting phenomenon, because you could cut me open, you wouldn't find it. You know what I mean? It's like it's we don't know where it is, we don't know what it is, but we just fall for such simple tricks. And this is why, this is one of Eckhart Tolle's techniques, but it's very effective. Okay, ego, which is the mind gone rogue, and the mind's not the enemy. I'm not a fan of like saying we need to stop thinking, because the mind thinks just like the lungs breathe. You know what I mean? But if we can establish, this is how I help my son with, he had a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of OCD at times, and how we've got over that is, and you may have seen the video, but whenever he has a thought, he was getting a bit attached to his thoughts and thinking that a bad thought meant he was a bad person. So I was just saying, okay, was the thought in time? And he'd say, yeah, it was. I had the thought earlier on today. Okay. So I said, that's because the ego needs time to survive. Okay. So first thing is, it needs time to survive. Is it in time? And anyone can do this. It's so effective. Second thing is, was it a problem? Is it a problem? Yeah, it is a problem. There you go. So the ego needs time to survive, and it needs problems as food. Okay. So if people reflect on their daily thinking, instead of getting attached to it, just think of like if a horse ran past you and you just watched it and it churned up a lot of dust. If you just continue to watch it, that dust will settle. Okay. So it's as simple as this. I have a funny thought. You can always say sorry for it because there's a reason we're having them. So I'm sorry for that thought. But is it in time? Yes. I'm scared something's going to happen in the future, or I didn't like what happened in the past. Was it a problem? Or is it a drama? Yes, it is. Okay, that's its food. So I'm just going to sit back and let the mud settle. It's a very simple approach. And that's the first, for me, that's a very simple way of starting to observe your thinking process, because when you're observing it, you can take a step back from the ego.
That's beautiful.
Another thing is, I found that a lot of the dark occultist practices are based off spiritual principles, which is interesting. So the checkered board in Freemasonry, the chess that they have, if you ever see like a movie and they have a black and white squared floor, that's a Masonic symbol, and they believe it's the chess board, and they believe that we're fighting each other on the chessboard, and they are the chess masters. They believe you have to go beyond the chessboard. Well, that's very similar to spiritual practice, because in like my teacher teaches the nature of yin yang, the world of yin yang. We need to go beyond it. The difference is that the benevolent path goes beyond it by detaching from it in compassion. Okay, whereas the dark path, they try and go beyond it through trauma. Okay, they actually create so much trauma in their kids that they detach from the world because they've suffered so much. Okay, they believe that nature is older than God, and that's why if you watch nature, you might see like an insect getting eaten by ants. Okay, it's really brutal, it's cruel, and they believe that's why they get away with their cruelty. Now, in the Taoist tradition, like if you listen to Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, he says, I don't know who gave birth to it, but it's older than God. Okay, he's referring to the Tao being older than God, God being actual all benevolent alpha and omega entity that's aligned with the Tao. But the Tao is nature itself, if you like. It's we don't know what it is. He says we don't know what it is. So similar concept, but just a different approach to it. The Buddha also, in the four seals of Buddhism, one of them is that emotions are suffering. Okay, so the Buddha looks deep into it, and once you acknowledge and observe the foundation of emotions, you can, through stillness, detach from both positive and negative emotions. Again, the dark side actually believe the same. They believe that humanity is manipulated through emotions. It means it's a weakness. So they try and get rid of emotions, again, through trauma. Okay. And another one in now is, well, they've been doing it for years, is a lot of these older top level Masons, they actually have got sperm banks. They have sperm banks everywhere, and they have the genetic code taken out for empathy. So a lot of their kids that are born now don't actually even feel empathy. It's not even in their genetic makeup, which is very sad as well. But that's how they can watch what happens and be completely, not fazed by some of these cruel practices that they do. So you can even be tricked into, and I don't want anyone, don't take too much attachment to what I say. This is just, but you can even be tricked into meditating the wrong way. Because in the West, if you look at how people meditate, it's for personal gain. Okay, I want to meditate to de-stress, these things. Now, don't get me wrong, that's good. If you're stressed and you can get rid of that stress, then you can save yourself, heal yourself, which everything's got to start from us as well, a bit of a paradox, and we can save our family better. So it's not a bad thing, but de-stressing and calming ourselves is a byproduct of meditation. If you look at, like, again, Tibetan Buddhism and even Master Sha, it's solely to gain insight, to realize the truth of reality and to save all beings. In Master Shah's, one of his earlier books called Living Divine Relationships, it's a beautiful book. He says in that, and it always touches me, he says, we have to be like God's shepherds, guiding the light side and the dark side into heaven before ourselves. So it's very, very powerful. It's the same thing as the Tibetan outlook. It's the same. So this is why universal meditation is the highest practice. It's also the highest healing. I often say to people who need to heal something, and again, I understand it takes a while to comprehend it. This is why I definitely stress in these times now. A lot of people are contacting me saying, I'm just so scared. I've had so many people suicidal at the minute, so many people losing their mind. I've given the same advice to so many people at the minute, and that advice is don't watch any news, don't read any articles, don't watch any videos. Have a 10-day break from what's going on in the world, and you'll realize that it's just information that's not helping you. And I would definitely say now is a beautiful time to read spiritual texts, read classic spiritual books, because if the whole world cut off, stopped watching the news, we'd have world peace. Their agenda is like a game of chess. They need our participation. They actually need, believe it or not, right? You know this term light workers, and I like it because fundamentally we are working and bringing light. But it's easily manipulated because there's still a battlefield. They have a logo which is like an eagle with two heads. And what that means is both Democrat, Republic, light, dark, Protestant, Catholic, they need both sides because they both feed the same beast. They need division, okay? So by going inward, if you can bring peace in your body, you'll experience world peace. After I did a presentation once, someone said, will we ever see world peace? And my answer to it was, if you are peaceful every day, your world is peaceful. You're experiencing world peace. If everybody did that, we've got world peace. So we need to jump off the battlefield of good, bad, light, dark. You know what I'm saying? And that's why my message is misunderstood sometimes. I share this stuff because I'm not saying these are the bad guys, we need to hate them. My vow is to save these people. I'm just saying that if I can just show you some of the techniques that they're using, an analogy I use is like, if I'm playing cards with Bo and I keep cheating, right? If he saw the cheat I was doing, I wouldn't get away with it anymore, okay? And this isn't about seeing them cheating and then fighting with them because you're still on the battlefield. It's about maturity. It's about saying, okay, this is a technique that they use and I'm not going to play it anymore.
Stop playing, yeah. No interest anymore.
No interest. Yeah, no interest. So, I mean, is there any questions? We can go anywhere with this.
It's so beautifully laid out. I love the fact that you were saying how the ego and then taking the pause when a thought comes up, whether it's fear, whatever that we are experiencing, and then just asking, is it in time? And then is it a problem? That's simple, but wow, so profound. Did you just simple. Yeah, did you just discover that based on just what's happening, or did you read a book? Because I'm just like, I'm loving this one.
If I was to be honest with you, I mean, Eckhart Tolle covers it in detail. Eckhart Tolle talks about how the mind needs time. So, when I've reflected on that, I've thought that is a really true statement. The reason why the present moment is so hard to be in this present day, and because we're bombarded with external stimulus, you know what I mean? The stimulation's coming in, which is keeping us from staying in the present moment. And the first thing that happens now with people who try and meditate is the ego says it's boring.
Yeah.
Right? our level of
Change your
stimulation is
mind.
just, yeah, the level of stimulation is just so much that people can't. One of the things I've said with Bo as well is there was a point where I kept on giving him the same advice with everything he asked me. So I'd say, Dad, I've just had a funny thought. And I'd give him the same advice. And he went through only like a couple of times he did it. It was like, oh, I know what you're going to say. Right. And I said, that's good that you know what I'm going to say, because there's a theory called adding, where the mind believes that fixing problems, you have to keep adding something. Now, I've been studying a lot of like commerce and common law, things like that, and understanding the law. And nature's law is basically love thy neighbor, love thy creator. And it can be summed up in one, which is do no harm. Okay. In Australia, there is 7 million laws and statutes and acts. In America, there's 22 million. Okay. So it's just complicated. Okay. There's just bamboozlement. So what I was saying to Bo was, I was going, the mind thinks that to fix something, it's got to be complicated. My whole presentation traveling around the world, traveling around Australia, trying to share a solution for world peace, was actually, it's not difficult. Beautiful story. When Master Shah left Master Guo in China to come to the West, he said, Master Guo, what's going to be my biggest challenge? And Master Guo said, getting the world to understand the simplicity. See, that's so powerful. So I used to say to Bo, I say, it sounds boring, but I'm going to keep saying it. Just come back to your breath, because you can't have a breath in the future. You can't breathe a breath in the past. If you follow the breath, you come out of time, and in this present moment, there's no problems. And he got to a point where he tried it and it worked. That's how simple that technique is.
Sometimes that simplicity is often overlooked.
All the time, most of the time. Yeah.
We always want the complicated things in life. And it's really amazing and I think it's because we have always been trained or introduced to complex things and keeping ourselves busy, but never really accomplish anything. But when we sit back and just like allow ourselves to just be an observant, like you said, more things can be accomplished with effortlessness. And that's just like you were saying, if we follow nature and just do and go with the current, things will just flow in all aspects of our life.
Absolutely. There's a Tibetan Buddhist practice where every inhale, every exhale, your mantra is, I need nothing. It's very powerful. You should try it, because you'll get to a point where you realize you don't need anything and you become empty. Then you actually change the mantra to something like Tien Di Ren Hui, okay, which is heaven, the nature of heaven, Mother Earth, and all life in between. Ren represents humanity, but it can also represent all beings in the middle of heaven and earth. Join as one. Okay, that is a selfless mantra, which is moving all beings in the direction of Tao reverse creation. So you're saving all beings to evolve consciously. But before you chant it from a place of I'm chanting that mantra, if you spend 10, 15 minutes just following the breath, repeating silently, I need nothing, it's a beautiful foundation to go into whatever mantra you want to chant and offer.
I love when you say that, because humanity is so connected to materialistic stuff, and the TV and our neighbors are flashing all the material stuff. But truly, when we came into this world, we came empty-handed.
Naked.
And when we leave empty-handed.
Correct.
It's truly nothing. So all the things that we acquired, busy acquiring, going and doing the unnecessary things to acquire those things truly become pointless if we truly understand this wisdom. And I love it how you said, because the mind is so busy, but by just inhaling, exhaling, and says, I need nothing, that's a command to the mind, like, and the ego. We truly don't need anything.
It's true. And the paradox, what's funny about that is when you actually stop wanting anything, everything comes to you. Which, it's funny because in like Tibetan Buddhism and like the yogic path as well, there's some funny stories if you read some of the ancient texts where they say like sages have tried to stop accumulating anything, and then the more they try and stop accumulating things, they get more, like people will give, devotees will give them more stuff, and they got to keep offloading it. You know what I mean? So it's just a case of, are you in harmony with nature or not? It's really, really simple. Shanti Deva, who's considered a great master of the past, he had a quote which basically went, all of our suffering in this life is a manifestation of any time we focused on ourselves in the past. And all of our blessings in life is a manifestation of any time we've offered service to others in the past. It's a very beautiful, beautiful quote. So, I can, at these times right now, I can't emphasize enough spiritual practice. I'm not kidding. Right now, while the energy is high, there's so much information around, and while people are in fear, if you seriously want to save yourself, your family, your community, and the world, you have to be solid, grounded, and detached. Instead of listening and watching all these different videos, which, don't get me wrong, I still watch a lot of videos. I can't watch them all. I don't watch them if I think I know the gist of them. Just if information outside of you is disrupting your peace, then just simply don't go near it. But start off with 15 minutes a day, or 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening, and settle yourself. Start off with something as simple as focusing on the breath and repeating, I need nothing. And then move to, and I'm keeping it as simple as possible, okay? Because I'm going to do a video soon on my YouTube, which is just, I'm going to share about 10 or 15 mantras that all have the same intention, but just the different mantras, because different mantras are important. Because, my Buddhist teacher said, when you find a mantra that makes you feel like you're with a loved one, like a grandfather or an uncle that you loved and you felt safe with, or a parent, when you hear a mantra that gives you that feeling, that's a mantra you've chanted a lot in the past. Like I remember before I found Master Shah, I was listening to a lot of like Tony Robbins motivational stuff and things like that, a lot of audiobooks, because I was abseiling, window cleaning, and I could listen to like 6 hours of audio a day. And when I found Master Shah, I saw that there was audiobooks, and I put on like Divine Soul Songs or something, and a lot of it was just going over my head because I was working, it was all new to me. But in that, he chants Namo Amitofu, and he chants the Da Bei Jo. And I stopped what I did. I didn't know what it was. I don't know who Amitofu was. Didn't know what the Da Bei Jo was. But I stopped working on the tools, and I took a screenshot. I was like, where that was. I was like, I need to go back to that, because that's just done something to me. You know what I mean? Like I learned the Da Bei Jo fast, chanting the Da Bei Jo fast. I learned it in no time at all.
Wow.
It's like I've always chanted these mantras. I've got a strong connection to
You were
Buddha.
Buddhist in your past life. No wonder you can digest the material and explain it so beautifully, because you know how long it would take to really break it down to simplified form, like you. Just like Master Shah, your soul have been here so many lifetimes.
I think we all have. We all have. I've just been very fortunate to find my way, But I just can't emphasize enough the importance of doing a practice. So once you start with just 10 minutes of I need nothing, then go, instead of chanting a mantra, go to 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, 10 minutes in the evening of wishing all beings health and happiness. It's just as simple as that. That is a selfless, it's turning your focus outward. You're going within, but it's not focusing on the false self. It's allowing your unique location in reality, in cosmos, to serve all beings. Then if you feel like you can hold 10 minutes peacefully doing that, maybe dedicate 30 minutes to an hour to chanting a mantra. That resonates with you. And search Buddhism, yogic philosophy, Hinduism, Muslim, Sufism, search them all and see what mantra moves you. You know what I mean? Because we've spent many lifetimes in many different traditions.
Our soul recognizes the truth, and our soul recognizes what is really the truth for our soul food, right? And since we're at the top of the hour, Nicholas, my dear friend, it is such an honor. And as Nick was saying, really just take 10 to 15 a minute of me time dedicated to our soul so that we can go out and serve others, serve ourselves by just really meditate to bring a sense of peace away from all the chaos. Grounding is beautiful. I love what Nick was saying, grounding. Go bare feet on the grass. As you're sitting there or standing on the grass, you can just breathe in, absorb the sunlight, feel all the nourishment from divine and heaven, and then just allow the body to send love and light to the world, to humanity, to all souls. And all of that can be done in 5, 10, 15 minutes. And the more that you do that, the more that you'll find peace within you, around you. The people around you feel your love, and they just feel the joy, and they want to be around you. And like Nick said, you know, the ego likes to trick us, but the more that we practice and recognize that the ego can sit aside and allow the true soul of our genuine divine soul come forth and live this life, then the fear will just disappear. And our, you know, thoughts and actions will always be in the light, because we will be radiating love, just like Nick is doing. And so Nick can be found on Facebook, and he also has a YouTube video now. Nick, what's your YouTube video link?
YouTube channel is just Nicholas Gianassi.
Okay, there it is, Nicholas Gianassi. And so we thank you so much, my dear friend. As always, he's in Australia. So
thank you guys for what you do.
Thank you. So our viewers, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I just want to touch on one thing you said. You know, again, going back to the light and dark path, the dark occultists, it's a religious practice to lie, believe it or not, deceive. So if you feel bamboozled with the news is given all these different, you know, they're telling you one thing, masks are no good, then the masks are good, and you don't know where it is. Remember, you can always find truth in nature. Mm-hmm. So if you go into the woods, you go onto the beach, that is truth right in front of you, and that is the divine nature. You know, a tree doesn't tell a lie. Okay, so truth is all around us. If we just switch off the TV and detach from all the information, we can find truth.
And also one of the mantra, Nick, that I always apply to is that just ask to see the truth, to know the truth, and to speak the truth.
Beautiful.
And the truth will be revealed. So if you're open to the truth, it will come.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. So our viewers, we are so grateful. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you will have a wonderful weekend. Like Nick said, take 10 to 15 minutes for yourself and breathe in. And if you have a thought that bothers you, just say, I need nothing. And if you could do that, that's self-empowerment. And there you go. And let us know how that goes. Until next Thursday, bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.